Hi, welcome. Today we're going to do a tutorial on making the floating logo signs in Plasticity. I already have a series on designing these in Fusion 360. I made a playlist. You can go there to watch all of those. I have moved from Fusion 360 to Plasticity because it's much more fluid of a modeling experience. You don't really get bogged down with the parametric aspect of Fusion 360 and the sketch-based modeling. This is direct modeling to its core. There is no parametric modeling whatsoever, no parameters. You can treat it the same way. You can sketch using curves and then extrude from those, but you're not locked into as rigid of a workflow as Fusion 360 is. So I still use Fusion, but more for mechanical parts that need joints, need to be, I need to check to see if there's clearances whenever they move. For this, this is marketed, Plasticity is marketed as CAD for artists, which I fully believe that's exactly what it is. So it's much easier to get anything done super quickly in this program, and I think that I've found probably the most efficient way to batch out these signs, and we'll go into that today. So you can see what I have on the screen right now is my starting file. You can see up here in the top that it is named V3 New York Rangers. We're going to be doing the New York Rangers logo today. I think it's a nice mix between one, it was a request from a member. If you're interested in more of these kind of videos or access to all of the floating logo signs that I've made, definitely think about becoming a member and you will have access to all of them. You can also see all of the designs that I've already done, so just shows that this process you can basically do anything. Obviously, there's a lot of complex logos out there that are going to take a little more meticulous thought and design. And I actually chose this New York Rangers logo today because it is pretty simple, but this is one of those that will require a bit of thought, and I will go through my thought process on how I go about these. So let's get started. This is Plasticity. I'm not going to go over the UI or the features. I have started to do some member videos that go into how to operate this, and I will continue doing those. I like the short format videos because they're very straight to the point, and it's easy to use those as basically a glossary of features. So I'm going to go through this like you've used it before. Plasticity, I do not have an affiliate link. Their affiliate program is shut down right now, but you can get a trial, or you can go to any of the other big YouTube tutorial names, and any of them are going to have discount codes. So it's a one-time payment, and it is well worth the money that you're going to pay for it. I have the studio version. You absolutely do not need the studio version, so you can get the lowest version, which I believe is $199, but it's a lifetime one-time purchase, no subscriptions, and it gives you a year of maintenance. So whatever updates come along with it, you'll get those for the next year, and then you can do, an upgrade in the future for much less money. So again, I think that it's well worth it, especially I use Blender a lot as well, and this program has what's called Blender Bridge, which will essentially transfer everything in your Plasticity file over to Blender in real time, and you can continue modeling, you can continue doing whatever you need to do, and it will update over in Blender. But obviously Blender has a much more powerful lighting and texturing side, so you can actually see your model come to life with all of its textures. All right, let's get started. This is I do have it renamed, but this is the base master file. So I keep one master file that has everything, has this base already created along with the hanging attachment and the kickstand and some other things up here, which I will go over. But this is exactly what it's going to look like whenever you open this, and this will be available on my website. link below, and this will be free for members. So this is what it's going to look like when you open it up. You can see over here is your outliner. This is the name of all of your components or objects. I've got a backup folder here that has just a backup hanger. It's got this base piece and the standoff as well. So if you ever need to remove any of that from this one to do any resizing, you've got extras over here just in case. So let's start with getting our logo. So I use vectorizer.ai, which is a paid software. And I understand it's a monthly payment. I believe it's $10 a month. A little steep, but it is by far the best converter that I've ever used. And for me, at the rate that I do conversion, it is well worth the money. So if you are interested, I have an affiliate link below, and we'll go over the settings as well. But you can use Inkscape. Inkscape is free. It's an open source vector drawing program that has an image trace. There's some other online utilities, and they all work well enough, but you're going to spend a lot more time doing cleanup than you would something that's straight out of vectorizer.ai. So let's switch over to there so I can show you that. All right, so this is the main page for Vectorizer. And you can see in another tab, I just looked up New York Rangers logo. We'll find right here. I'll just click on one that is a decent size. Doesn't have to be huge. Vectorizer, unfortunately, still does have a limit to the size of the document. So let's take this one and drag it over and drop it in. And you can see it automatically starts to convert. Give that a second, and there you go. You can look at the side by side here. So this is your JPEG version or PNG, and this is your SVG, which as you know is infinitely scalable and never loses any detail because it's all mathematic. So that looks really good to me. I do like to spend, actually I'll stay right here because this is the vector version. I do like to take a look and just make sure that everything looks okay. Sometimes you'll get some weird little boogers, but that's fine. You can clean those up, but it's easy to go ahead and see them right now before you get them into Plasticity. So we'll go to download, and you can take a screenshot of these settings. So I always do stroke the edges between the shapes once, and that will get rid of all those. And then I just have the Bezier curves selected and superfine tolerance. And then we will hit download. You can see that it downloads right over to here. And you can literally just take this file, drag it right over to Plasticity. And let me switch back over there. And you can see once you do that, there is your file. You can click on millimeters here to make it a little smaller and right click to commit. There we go. We've got our logo in there. So I'm going to press R for rotate, X to rotate on the X axis, and then 90 to rotate it 90 degrees, and hit enter, right click to commit. Now, obviously you can see on the screen that my keys should show up. My mouse, whenever I scroll, you can see if I'm scrolling up or down, or if I'm holding in the middle mouse button. Middle mouse button is to orbit, right mouse button is to pan, and then to scroll, zoom in and out. And you should be able to see my keys as well. So now that I have that in, you can see that they are all automatically highlighted here. I'm going to hit Control G to group those so that they're nice and organized. Double click on that to rename, and we will call that logo curves. A curve is a vector curve. It does not have any geometry yet, but you can use curves, and you can use the space in between closed curves to extrude and create new geometry just like that. I'll hit escape. And we'll hit 1 on the numpad, which will give you a direct straight on view, front view. So you can hit 1, you can hit 3, will give you a direct side view, and then 7, top view. And these are all orthographic views, so that they are completely perfect straight on views with no perspective distortion. So we'll go back to 1. And you can right click on logo curves, select all. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to start getting this lined up with my sign, or with the base. So we'll hit G for grab, and we'll move this over. And then you can hold Control to turn on snapping. And I'm going to hold Control, snap it to the middle. I'll move it up a little bit. You can already tell this is not going to be completely perfect, but that's okay. And you don't have to hit right click to commit. I'm just going to go ahead and hit S to scale, and it will commit the moving and move it over to scale. Now you can hit S again to do freestyle scaling, and I will scale it down to about what size I think it's going to be. Again, doesn't have to be perfect right now. We'll hit G and then G again for freestyle moving. And we'll put this about right there. What I try to do is you can see at the bottom of the shield for the Rangers, I'm lining that up with the Z-axis. So we'll right click there, and I think that looks pretty good. Whoops. Oh, we'll click first to keep it there, and then we'll right click to commit. So there we go. I always keep the outer box on just to help with the locating of the logo. Now we'll hit 2 on the upper number row, and you can see that will change you from control point, edge, face, sheets, and solids. We're going to go 2, which is edge, and then we'll go around and we will select the parts that we don't need, and you can just hit delete. That will delete those out. So that looks good. You don't have to do this, but I'm going to do it anyway. I'm going to select both of these by holding Shift and selecting. Then I'll hit J to join them. So now you can see it's one continuous curve. Again, not required, but just makes me feel better. All right. So let's orbit out. Now we're going to select 3 for face. And let me show you what happens if we don't do that. Let's say that we stayed on edge and we select all these. And then we hit E for extrude. What's going to happen, it's going to extrude, but it's going to extrude as sheets. And these are infinitely thin. These are not actual geometry. So if you sent this over to a slicer, this would not 3D print. So we do not extrude curves unless we're looking for sheets. So I'm going to hit escape to cancel that. 3 for face select, and I'm going to select everything. And you can see that once you select all the faces, it'll automatically bring up this extrude, which I really like. It makes things very quick and efficient. Now I will start extruding back, and I always extrude back so that way my SVG, my graphic, will stay on the topmost face. Makes it a little easier to work that way. You can see this is one thing I hope that they change in the future. If you change your units of measurements, then they stay changed throughout all of your different files, which I would like to be able to have. I do woodworking and metalworking, so a lot of times I'll design in inches. My last design was in inches, but this needs to be in millimeters. So we're going to change over to millimeters, exit out of this extrude, and then hit E for extrude again. And now you can see that we're in millimeters. So we're going to push it back just to get it started, just to understand which way, because you can see, let's say we went this way. It'll be different which way you go on whether or not it's going to be positive or negative. So we can see here, we've got the distance, and we're going to do 8 millimeters. This is always, you're always going to use 8 millimeters. 8 millimeters is always going to be the first extrusion, and this is going to be your base layer of your logo. Hit enter, and then right click to commit. So let's jump back over to our logo, and I've got two monitors, so I will usually have the logo up on one monitor and I will have the plasticity window on the other. And let's switch back over there so that we can take a look at the colors. And I'll go through kind of my thought process when it comes to colors and how they're going to be layered. So this one we have blue on the very outside, and sometimes I will, depending on the logo itself, I will omit certain outside borders if it doesn't make sense for this design. Sometimes you're going to have to take creative liberties with these if it doesn't work with the design, but I do try and stay as true as I can to the logo. So for this one, the main thing that I'm looking at are small pieces and letters. I generally don't want to print a bunch of small pieces and have them inserted. So the thought process here would be to have a white base and then have a blue piece printed here so that you can read the letters. The letters are essentially negative space. So you're not printing these letters as white letters. You're printing this blue piece, which is going to show the white through the blue piece and form the letters. And then this red, again, I like to make things three-dimensional as much as I can, so it kind of gives it that cool look. So I'm thinking we'll bring this blue piece out. Now the only downside to doing the blue in this scenario is that we have this middle part for the R, for the O, A, R, R here. So those are going to be individually printed pieces that will have to be installed into the white piece, but I still think that that's better than printing all of the letters and getting them inserted. Because usually with small pieces like this, like with these lines right here, those are likely not going to be big enough for the preset pens that I have created in that file. So I know that this is a lot of talking and probably don't understand yet, but hopefully you'll see what I'm talking about in just a minute. So I think that's going to be the game plan here. I think that we will do a white base and then we'll extrude this blue piece out along with these little islands. And I'm probably going to omit the complete blue outline here because the base, the square base behind it is going to be blue. So that will act as this little blue outline and give it that contrast. So let's shoot back over to plasticity. And we'll start here. So we have this, we've decided that this is going to be white. So let's go ahead and do that here. So we'll click on this extruded. I do not rename things. Again, I work through these pretty quickly. So I try to be as efficient as possible, and I've got a workflow. So I do recommend that you name things, especially whenever you get, when you're starting out at this, it will really help in the future in keeping you organized. But I'm not going to for the sake of making this as quick as I can. So we will click on extruded 1 and we're going to hit M for material. And then we're going to go right here and we're going to move that all the way up to white, right click to commit. Now you'll see that nothing happened because we are in this gray matte cap. So the one that I like that helps a lot right here is this purple and black. And this will show your colors. Also, you can see that you can see through my model here. It's kind of an X-ray view. And I turn that on and off as needed. You can go right up here to X-ray mode or hit Alt-Z to turn that on and off. It is extremely helpful, and you'll see that in the future, but sometimes it gets a little distracting. So for right now, I'm going to turn it off. So now you can see that everything is just white. I really like this matte cap right here because there's no shadows, there's no dark areas. It keeps everything lit evenly, which is very helpful for this. All right, so let's start on the blue portion. So we're going to click right here. Again, we're in face select mode. So we'll select that face. And we'll go ahead and select all these islands as well. So shift to select multiple. And let's say that I accidentally selected that one and I want to unselect it. You can hit, just keep shift down, but you can hit control. Hit control, and control will deselect that. And then we'll go back to holding shift. So shift to add, control to subtract. And I will be repeating myself a lot, but I think that that's very helpful to hear the hotkeys over and over. So there we go. We've got everything selected. And we're just going to pull on that way. And I generally do 2 millimeters. So we'll go right there. Right click to commit. Now, once you commit, all of these are still highlighted. So I will just go ahead and hit Control G to group them. And then we're going to select this group, hit M for material. And this does not need to be perfect, just as a help to you. We'll just select some sort of blue and right click to commit. So now you can actually see the three-dimensional aspect of what we're doing here. Now for this one, I think that we're going to have all of these come out. So we'll go to group 3, right click on it, select all. I'm going to hit G for grab. And we're going to pull them out that way, and we will do, so you can see here, this is positive. Right, if we do G for grab, you go this way, it's positive, go that way, it's negative. So that's why I always like to start it out going a certain way, and then come down to the text box, and we'll do -3 millimeters. I do try and standardize the standoffs because I do have these standoffs already made. One is 4 millimeters, one is 7. We'll get to that in a minute. So whenever I do have something floating like this, I always do 3 millimeters. All right, and this is the last one that we need to do, which is just the red triangle. Now, you can see basically what I will do is I'll bring that out, we'll extrude that, and we'll do 2 millimeters. Okay, right click. I'm not going to group that because it's just one body, but we'll select M for material, color, go to red. Right click to commit. So that actually doesn't look too bad. Let's turn the curves off. So we can come up here to logo curves and hit this eye icon to turn those off so we get a nice clean view. Yeah, that actually doesn't look too bad. I was a little worried that from the side angle you'd see a lot more of this white, but I don't think that's terrible. But let's just say that we wanted to do something else here. You've got two options. One, we're still on face select mode up here. You can click Alt, and Alt will do its best to select a continuous selection of a face or a curve. So you can see here we selected that, and it was not able to go all the way around. So we'll hit Shift. Remember, Shift is to add to, and Alt. There we go. So that should have added everything around. Let's hide this blue group so we can see what we're doing a little bit better. Okay, so we selected everything around. So now you can do this handle, and that will just open up or extend those faces. So let's just commit to that. Right click. Let's turn the blue back on. Now you can see from the sides, you don't really see that white under there. So Yeah, maybe that looks good. Let's do another way. We're going to hit Control Z for undo. So that's that. We're going to undo the extrusion. There we go. So we're back to the curve. We can kind of do the same thing. So we're going to now, oh, no, we still have it extruded. So Control Z again. There we go. So we can kind of do the same thing here on the curve side before we do the extrusion. So we can hit edge or 2 on the keyboard. We'll select this edge. O for offset. And then we'll do the same thing. So now you can see that it's offsetting it outwards. So let's just go with that. Right click to commit. We'll go back to 3 for face select. And select both of those now. And extrude those 2 millimeters. Right click to commit. And M for material. Red. Right click to commit. There we go. So now you can see that we don't really have, unless you're at a really, really extreme angle, you can't see that. So I think that looks pretty good. Turn the curves off again, and I like to just stop at this point and make sure that this is the look that I'm going for. All right, now we're going to start adding the pins, and this is one of the big reasons that I shifted over to Plasticity. It has tools that make adding repeat objects to other objects and booleans very, very quick, very easy, very efficient. And a boolean is basically where you're combining 2 pieces of solid geometry, or you're using one piece to cut out, basically the negative cavity, which we're going to do both right now, so you'll see. So let's get rid. So we're going to go 4, which is your object select. So now whenever you select anything, it's going to select the entire object, right? So we're going to select this white base. We're going to hit H for hide. And we don't need these right now either, so we are going to hide those. Okay. Actually, let's bring the white base back. Go back to what I said. So we'll hit 3 on the numpad, which will give us a straight on side view. So we have this one extruded. It's 2 millimeters, and we have it moved out 3 millimeters. So you can see over here in the outliner, I have 2 pin designs. I've got a 4 millimeter, and that's the length of the pin. And I use the 4 millimeter pin for anything that is set directly on another piece. So like this red piece, I'm going to use the 4 millimeter. So then that pin will go into this body 4 millimeters. This one will use the 7 millimeter, right? Because we moved it 3 millimeters out, and it will go into the body 4 millimeters. So I do try and standardize and keep everything on the same plane as much as possible. It just makes everything so much easier. And you'll see that whenever we go to select all the pins to adjust the tolerance. It makes it very easy when you can select all the pins in one go and you don't have to worry about one sticking out a millimeter more than the others. All right, so I wanted to show you that. So we will rehide this. Now what we're going to do, and this is really, really cool. Another just great thing from Plasticity. So this is the blue one. We're going to work on the blue one first. So we're going to do the 7 millimeter, which you can see is the longer one. And you can see that there's a slight draft angle. It's a 2 degree draft angle just to make installation a little easier. We'll select this object. Again, we're in 4 object selection mode. We are going to do Control D. So Control D is the place function. And this will let you place these anywhere you want on any of these objects and do it over and over and over. And it will also automatically Boolean combine the pins at the same time. So let's show that. So we hit Control D. So now it's going to ask you, where do you want the place point to be? So obviously we want it to be on the wider end of the pen. So we're going to select right here. Now you can see kind of what I'm talking about. It will make a duplicate of that object. You can place that duplicate anywhere you want. So let's go over here. So we talked about 1 is straight on view, 3 is side view, 7 is top view. If you want to do the opposite of that, all you're going to do is control and 1, 3, or 7. So I want back view. So I'm going to do control 1. So now I'm looking directly at the back side of this piece. So let me show you this. You can see it's faced the wrong way. So look in the bottom right hand corner. See, you've got a bunch of options down here. So we're going to hit F for flip. So now it's in the correct orientation. And then we're going to hit Q for union. Now it'll turn blue. So that means whenever I click on this and I hit commit, it's going to go ahead and place it there, and it's going to Boolean union this pen to the object. So control 1 to get back to back view. And this part really, since this one is off 3 millimeters and you're going to be able to see these pens, you want to take a little bit more time to make sure that they're, somewhat lined up and that they're not kind of all over the place or super close to the edge, because you are going to be able to see them. It doesn't matter. When we get to this one, it's not going to matter at all because you're not going to see them. So for this one, let's just we'll do right there. So I just left clicked. Now I'm going to right click to commit. So that one is added to the object and it's already booleaned. So we don't have to do any of those steps after this. And now we can just continue to go on. So control 1 to realign ourselves. Do another one here, right click. Do another one here, right click. Let's see, do one there, right click. Do one there, right click. Now, here we're gonna have some issues because, oh, that's gonna work. So our pen is small enough. We'll go there, right click. There. And there. Now let's see about this one. Okay. So this one's a little, it probably would work, but if you have any kind of over extrusion or anything on your 3D printer, you're going to see this from the other side. So let's go ahead and make sure that we have pins everywhere we want with this size, because I'm going to show you another cool trick with this place tool. I think that's going to be good. You know what? Let's add one more there just for some more support. And I think that's going to be fine. Okay, so let's go back to this point. You want to do these at the end because it's going to keep the size for the next pen. So we'll click where you think it should be. We're going to try and get equal spaces on the top and the both sides right there. So something like this. We'll go ahead and click. Before you right click to commit, again, we have all these options down here. We're going to go to scale. So we'll hit S. Put your mouse away from this. So we'll put the mouse, the cursor up here. We'll hit S to scale. And then now you can just scale it down. You can scale it down to however you want. And I say put your cursor over here because if you have your cursor right here whenever you hit S, like that's how much movement you have to do your scaling. So it's going to be all over the place and very hard to control. That's going to take some practice and just doing over and over. So we'll click there. Now we can right click to commit. So now that it is a somewhat smaller pen. But I say do that at the end because now these new pins are that size. They're not the original size. So control 1 to realign ourselves. Let's get one in this corner. Click, right click. And then I think we'll do one maybe about halfway. Click, right click. All right, I think that looks good. And when you're done, then you can hit escape and that's it. So The place tool is by far my favorite part of this process when compared to Fusion. It's just so fast. And let's say that you had 10 different objects and you were using that 7 millimeter pen on all of them. You don't have to do it, in Fusion, you work on bodies or you work on components at a time. Here, you can stick that on any body at any time. You're not limited to any components. So very quick, very easy. So let's go ahead and do the same thing for the red. We're going to click the 4 millimeter. This one is a slot. So let's say that you did not have enough room to put two of these circles because it is a circle, right? If you only have one, that piece is still going to be able to spin. It's not going to lock in the orientation of that piece. So that's why I have this one, which is an oval. So if you have a smaller area to work with, you can use the oval and that'll keep it locked in. It'll keep it clocked in its orientation. But for this one, we'll have plenty of room to use the circles. We'll click that again, Control D, and Delta. Click here. And then what I usually do is I will go ahead and just hover over. We can see that we need to flip it. F for flip, Q for Boolean union. Click, right click, click, right click, click, right click. Escape. That easy. Just super quick, very efficient. Now we have these islands to deal with. Let's come back to our Control 1 back view. Go to Face Select. Select that one. Hold Shift to add to our selections. We'll select the faces, the back faces of all of our islands. And we're going to hit O for offset. And now you can see I'm barely moving my mouse, but you can see it creates a little offset to that piece. I don't do much at all. I just don't want it to be the same size there. Then we'll click, right click to commit. And it automatically highlights all of the offset pieces that we just did. So now you can take those, bring this, and then you can hold Control to snap and snap to that one. And that will extrude all of those the same length as this. And then you have this angle adjacent option here, which this is slow, so it's hard to see. But whenever you move it over, it's adding a draft angle to those pieces. Now, sometimes with the complexity of the object that you're selecting, you will not be able to get to the 2. But you can see here, we don't have any errors and we got to 2 degrees angle. And you can see it just puts a very, very slight draft angle on those. So that's nice. Right click to commit, and we're done. So that's all the pens. Now let's hit 3. And you can see since we did... Oh, interesting. Okay. So hit 3 again. Because we scaled these and they're smaller, it also scaled on this axis. So they are not the same length. So I guess what I was saying earlier is not a perfect science, but I think you understood the idea behind it. All right, let's bring back the white base. Now you can see all those pins. Now we're going to Boolean. We're going to use those pins as carving tools or cutting tools to cut out the respective hole in this white piece. So we're going to go to 4 for solid selection mode. And before we have anything selected, what we're going to do is Q. Q is for your booleans. We're going to select the object that we want to be cut into first. You can see that turns blue. And then we'll select all of the other objects. This is another thing that I love about uh, plasticity is you're not worried about components and doing things in any kind of order. You're not worried about a timeline. You can just batch it all out. So now we're going to hold shift to select multiple cutters. We'll select that. Select everything that we need to cut into the main piece. Now, be very careful here because right now, if you hit commit, let's go ahead and do that. It cuts everything. That's exactly what we wanted, but all of our stuff's gone because it deletes your cutters afterwards. So we're going to Control Z that. And we'll hit Q. Select the object we want to be cut into, and then we'll hold shift, reselect all of our pieces to cut. And then you can see right here, you've got keep tools, or over here, keep tools. So you can hit T, and that will keep the tools that are going to be cutting into that piece. And right click. So now we select this, H to hide. It has made all of our cuts. But we're almost there. As you know, that made a completely perfect cut using the pen. Now, in real life, there's no completely perfect matching of anything, so we need to add a little bit of tolerance there for the 3D printer, for the final object to be able to snap in there. So let's do Control Z to unhide that. We're going to hide the base. H for hide. 3 will get us to perfect side view. And then we're going to select 3 for face. You've got different selection modes. This is like most programs out there. Left to right is going to select everything that is fully within that window. So you can see when we go from left to right, we're not selecting anything. We actually are, but you can't see it. We're selecting the end faces of these. But you can see nothing is selected because the entire thing has to be selected, or within this box to be selected. And then if you go from the right to left, anything that is touching the box will be selected. So that's what I do. So we'll go right to left, and we're going to come over to where all, remember, we don't want any of the bodies, the main body. We just want all of the pins to be selected and let go. And that will automatically bring up push face, which is very nice. And we're just going to slide this to the left. I'm going to go back and forth a couple times. Look at the pins. When we go -1, it is scaling those down by -1 millimeter, or 0.1 millimeter. And to me, that is the perfect size for a nice, satisfying snap fit. So -0.1. And we'll right click. Now you want to make sure that this is done in this order, right? You do the Boolean first, because you already have the holes cut in the base, and then you want to scale those, right? So now you can see when you zoom in, you've got just a little bit of clearance right around there. And let me show you another cool trick. So we're still on face select mode. We'll select any face like that. And we'll come up here to section analysis. Section analysis will let us cycle through the entire thing and look at a side profile cut view. Just like we're taking a bandsaw and cutting this thing in half. Now you can see this is what that 0.1 millimeter offset looks like. And that will get you a really nice, satisfying click that once clicked in is not going to go anywhere. And this section analysis tool has, if you're familiar with Fusion, the interference tool, this one has that built in as well. So you can see right now, nothing turns red. I mean, obviously this turns red. Let's go to just the gray shader. So nothing turns red because there is nothing that is actually interfering. There are no two pieces of geometry occupying the same space, right? But let's say that we did, let's just select that face and bring it out. We'll commit. Then let's go back and do our section analysis. See how that's turning red now? That's giving us a visual warning that we have two conflicting pieces of geometry. So very handy. I recommend, especially for the first few times that you do this, that you use this tool because it'll help you get out of some trouble. And I should have used this a lot more. There's a lot of times where I get a little too quick with these, and I don't do the proper double checking that I should be doing. So highly recommend that you do that. So we'll get out of here, and then we're going to Control Z to undo that. All right. So that's it for that. The last step is going to be making our holes in the base and this logo piece for the acrylic bushings and, or I'm sorry, the TPU bushings and the acrylic rods, or the 3D printed rods, whichever route that you go. I'm a sucker for the acrylic rods and the TPU bushings. I just think that it makes it look a lot more finished and polished. But I understand that cutting down the acrylic rods are, not everybody has the capacity to do so. But if you are interested in the acrylic rods and the TPU bushings, I sell packs on my website. I think it's like $10 for a set of 9 TPU bushings and cut to length and beveled acrylic rods, and that's enough to do 3 different signs. So if you are interested, jump over to the website and order some of those and take a look around. There is a discount on those as well for members. So let's go ahead and let me explain this really quick. So you can see here, let's go to 4 solid object. We'll select that, and I've got a bushing cutter, right? So this is not an actual part. This is not a part that we're going to use. This is a part that is designed solely to cut out, to use as a cutter for the Boolean to cut out the space for the TPU bushings to go in. Let's hide this. Now you can see here is the TPU, a model of the TPU bushing and a model of the acrylic rod. I only have these in here because I export everything over to, or I use Blender Bridge over to Blender to do the renderings for my posting for the website. You do not need these. If you're not looking to render these, if you're not looking to do anything in Blender, you can take this master file once you get it and just delete these out because you're not going to need them. I'm going to keep them because I use them. And then we're going to hit Alt H, which is to unhide everything. All right, let's get rid of the curves. And this is set exactly where it needs to be. Let's hit 3 to do a perfect side view. So you can see this is exactly where it needs to be to cut out the correct spot on the base. And then we're going to move this logo to this line so that it's in the right spot to do that as well. Confusing, I know. You'll see what I mean. So still in object selection mode. Let's select this whole logo. G for grab. Now, you can see what happens whenever it puts your pivot or your origin right here. It's basically just saying it's putting it in the very center of the mass or the very center of the geometry. We don't want that because we want to align this part with this line. But that's very easy in Plasticity. We'll hit V, and you can see right here, V is pivot, and that's going to allow you to put this pivot wherever you want, or this origin. So we'll hit V, and now you can see that we're dragging just the pivot around, and we're going to bring it to the back. Doesn't matter where, as long as it's on this line and you have an arrow pointing straight back, and then click. Now, you can take this and move it that way, And remember, if we hold control, we'll snap. We're going to snap right to there. Right click to commit. So now that is exactly in line with where we need it to be for the cutter. All right, we'll hit 1 for a straight forward view. We're going to select all of these. We're going to hit G for grab. Now, this is very important. You want to use this block right here to move this around. And what that square indicates is that that square is moving it on this plane. So it's just moving it on the z-axis and the x-axis. It's not moving it in and out on the y-axis, which is important, right? Because we have it already set on the y-axis exactly where we want it to be. So we want to just move this around on this plane. I will hit Alt-Z for the X-ray view, because what we want to do is we want to avoid any of these pins. Because if we place this where that pin is going to be at, then that pin is going to go through and it's going to hit where that bushing should be. So we'll go right there. Shift D is going to be duplicate. I'll take this one. We'll just move it right there. And I like to make sure that they're, somewhat spaced similarly off of the sides. Shift D. And then we'll move that one about right there. What you can also do is take this, hold down Control, right? So no matter where my cursor is, it's just moving on the X axis. Hold down Control to snap, and we'll snap it right on the Z axis, and that will get it perfectly aligned. Right click to submit, and there we go. We've got them in place. So now the cutters are in place to cut. Q for Boolean. Select the object we want to be cut first, and then hold down Shift. Select those three. Remember, default behavior is to eliminate the tool once you've done it. I want to keep these because I need to do another cut into this one. So we'll hit T, or you can do this little radio button here or this toggle button for keep tools. Right click to submit. We're going to do the same thing. Q, select this one, and then we'll select all three of these. Now, this is the last time that I need that cutter because I don't need it to cut anything else. So I am not going to keep tools, and I'm going to right click to commit. Now you can see that it made our Boolean cut like we wanted, but now they're deleted, which is fine because I don't need them anymore. And for me, since this is going to go straight into Blender, which I will do another video on to cover the Blender bridge, I keep the acrylic bushing the TPU bushing and the acrylic rod in place so that that can be rendered out. But as far as the design and this being ready to print, let's take all of these, hit H for hide. Now we can hit A. Actually, let's hide. Let's say that you're doing this and you want to send it straight over to the slicer. We'll select, again, this is going to be a me thing unless you have a reason for these to be in the model. But I'll select all of the bushings and acrylic rods and I will hide them. Now you can select A to select all. So this selects every single object that's visible. And then I have F is going to be your find menu, but this is also your favorites menu. So F, and you can go through here. Here's all of the different things that you can do within this program. But at the very top, you can save things by just going right here and add to favorites. And you can see that I have added export step as a favorite. So we'll go all, F, step. The AP203 works perfect. And then you're just going to right click. And what that did in the background is, let's go over to my file explorer. So what that did in the background is it added this step file to the folder that your plasticity file lives in. And you can literally just double click on that step file. It will open it in your slicer and you can arrange everything and print it. So that's it. Hope that you enjoyed the tutorial. I know it's pretty long, but hopefully you got some value out of it. I do a lot more in-depth tutorials and small tidbit videos on my website in the members section. So if you're interested in this kind of stuff, I don't plan on just doing the floating logo signs forever. I'm definitely going to branch out into some more stuff. So if you're interested in anything, or maybe there's a niche out there that's not filled, let me know, and maybe we can add it to the members section. So thanks again. Again, hopefully you got something out of this, and jump over to the website and take a look around. All right, thank you. Bye bye.